You sit in therapy sessions nodding and saying the right words, but inside you feel like you're watching someone else's life through glass. The therapist asks how you feel, and you give an answer that sounds right, while the real you stays hidden somewhere they cannot reach. Week after week you return hoping this time will be different, but you leave feeling more alone than when you arrived. Other people seem to have breakthroughs and transformations, while you wonder if there is something fundamentally broken about how your mind works. You've tried different therapists, different approaches, different techniques, but nothing seems to stick or create the healing everyone promises is possible. The harder you try to be vulnerable and open, the more disconnected you feel from both yourself and the person trying to help. Sometimes you catch yourself performing recovery rather than actually recovering, saying what you think will make the session end successfully. Deep down, you suspect that maybe you are the problem, that maybe some people are just too damaged for therapy to work. But what if the problem is not that you are broken, but that your mind learned to protect itself in a very specific way? What if therapy feels impossible because trusting anyone completely, even someone trying to help, goes against everything you learned to survive? When you were small, the people who were supposed to keep you safe were also the ones who caused you pain. You learned that the people who said they loved you could switch without warning, becoming dangerous in ways you could not predict. Your young mind discovered that showing your real feelings made things worse. So you learned to hide them even from yourself. Trust became a luxury you could not afford, because trusting the wrong person at the wrong moment could mean getting hurt again. So your brain built an invisible wall around your heart, letting people get close enough to seem normal, but never close enough to hurt. This wall was not built from anger or stubbornness, but from love for the small person inside who had already been hurt enough. Years passed and the danger ended, but the wall remained because your mind never got the memo that it was safe to come out. By adulthood, the wall had become so automatic that you forgot it was even there, until someone asked you to trust them completely. Here is where it gets interesting. The very thing that kept you alive as a child now keeps healing at arm's length. Your mind treats every therapist like a potential threat, not because they are dangerous, but because vulnerability itself feels dangerous. Each session becomes a careful dance where you share just enough to seem cooperative, but never enough to feel truly exposed. When the therapist pushes for deeper honesty, your mind activates every defense system it has, disguised as cooperation. You become an expert at therapy speak, using the right words while keeping your real self safely hidden behind psychological language. Homework assignments get completed perfectly on paper, but your emotional life stays exactly the same because compliance is not healing. Months pass with you wondering why everyone else seems to have breakthrough moments while you feel like you are stuck behind glass. The more sessions you attend, the more frustrated you become, not with the therapist, but with your own inability to let them in. Sometimes you almost break through, almost say the thing you really think, but then the wall kicks in and you retreat to safety. Your mind has become so good at protection that it protects you even from the people you specifically hired to help you heal. Each failed attempt at vulnerability makes the wall stronger, because now you have proof that even trying to heal can hurt. But that is only half of it. The real problem is not just that you cannot trust others, but that you cannot trust yourself. Years of hiding your real feelings meant you stopped knowing what your real feelings actually were, even when you were alone. How can you be vulnerable with a therapist when you do not even know which emotions belong to you and which are performances? Your relationship with yourself became so fractured that you approach your own mind like a stranger you cannot quite trust. Therapy asks you to explore your feelings, but feelings have been the enemy for so long that you treat them like landmines. Every technique feels like being asked to disarm the very system that kept you functional, with no guarantee that anything better will replace it. If this feels familiar, that is not an accident. Millions of people carry invisible walls built in childhood, disguised as adult independence. The cost is not just failed therapy sessions, but a life lived at half volume, where connection always feels slightly out of reach. Relationships become exhausting because you are always managing two people, the one others see and the one you keep hidden. Work becomes easier than intimacy because professional relationships have clear boundaries that never threaten the wall you built. Even your dreams stay carefully controlled, as if your mind refuses to let you be vulnerable even when you are unconscious. The loneliness is not from being alone, but from being surrounded by people who only know the version of you that is safe to show. Now here is the part nobody talks about. The wall is not your enemy. It is your most loyal friend, just doing an outdated job. Your mind built this protection system with love, not fear, trying to keep safe the part of you that was once small and scared. The wall never learned that you grew up, that you now have choices your child self never had, including the choice to heal safely. It keeps treating every therapist like the unpredictable adults from your past, because that is all it knows how to do. This system believes that keeping you isolated is better than risking the kind of pain you experienced when you were too young to protect yourself. But here is what it does not understand. The small person it is protecting is no longer small, and the danger is no longer real. The wall has become like a guard dog that never learned the war ended, still barking at every visitor, even the friendly ones. Recovery for you is not about tearing down the wall, but about teaching it to recognize the difference between danger and help. This takes time because the system needs proof that letting someone in will not recreate the pain it was built to prevent. Some therapists understand this, and work with your protective system instead of against it, earning its trust slowly and carefully. In short, healing happens when your mind learns that protection and connection can exist together. That is all. Maybe therapy has not worked because you have been trying to force yourself to be vulnerable instead of learning to be safe while vulnerable. Maybe the right therapist is not one who breaks down your walls, but one who helps you build windows and doors in them. Maybe your protective system is not the problem to solve, but the scared part of you that needs to understand you are safe now. Maybe healing looks different for someone who learned to survive by never fully trusting, and that difference is not a failure. Maybe the therapy that works for you will honor both your need for connection and your need for safety without asking you to choose. The truth is this: you are not too broken for therapy. You just need therapy that understands how beautifully your mind learned to keep you alive. When you find someone who sees your walls not as obstacles, but as evidence of your strength, that is when real healing becomes possible. Your mind protected you with such fierce love that it forgot how to let love back in. But protection and love were never meant to be enemies. They were meant to be partners, keeping you safe enough to be real.